On January 11th, with 10 days notice, it was announced that replacing the long-time ranked middleweight Brad Tavares would be a man who got a big-time win over on Dana White's Contender Series in a main event slot in Brunno the Hulk Ferreira. He's going to be taking on Robocop, Gregory Rodrigues. And Matt, if you were to go up to Brunno Ferreira and with your limited Portuguese, I'm going to assume it's not zero. You probably know like one or two words.
It's close to zero.
But it's
Muchos Brazil. I hear that a lot, and that's it.
There's probably not a lot of it. But if you went up to him and maybe through like Lucas Lutkus or another one of the translators out there, maybe Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Where are you getting at with all of this?
If you went up to Brunno and you said, hey, did you know MMA fights were traditionally 3 rounds, he'd probably give you the Russell Westbrook, like after the jazz. What?
Sure about that?
You sure? Do you know that? Brunno Ferreira has finished every single one of his fights, and this guy is a wrecking machine. He doesn't know not striking. He doesn't know, not jiu-jitsu. He doesn't know 3 rounds and going to a decision. He doesn't fight with a style that's conducive to winning decisions. Put it that way. He throws hammers from the outside. He has one-touch jiu-jitsu, one-kill type of stuff. I know I messed that right up.
Dude.
But if you look at Brunno Ferreira, he fights in a style that really matches up well against a guy like Gregory Rodrigues, who fights in a style very similar to that. And I know Brunno, for what it's worth, has a great jiu-jitsu pedigree. I know he trains with a great gym, whether it's Evolu Sao Tai or his jiu-jitsu gym that he trains at as well. But if you consider for Gregory Rodrigues, multiple-time national jiu-jitsu champion over there, and Gregory has that judo in his back pocket that carries him far. So both guys jiu-jitsu black belts, both guys judo backgrounds. Brunno is a black belt there as well. I think these guys stylistically, again, they match up really well, and a lot of people might have a lot of confidence with Gregory Rodrigues. He also got knocked out by Jordan Williams on Contender Series, so you got to kind of take the good with the bad, and he gets hit hard in a lot of his fights.
And that's what I keep on going back to. We brought up Drew Dober when he fought Terrance McKinney earlier on in this card. Drew Dober is getting to the point now, I don't know about you, where I'm like, okay, the chin's not going to last forever. And with Gregory Rodrigues, I do worry about, okay, when is this going to run out? You can't fight like this forever. And I really thought we were starting to see the limitations of his fighting style the last time out against Njokuani. Chinny was beating the brakes off him for the first 4.5 minutes of that fight. He was way faster, hitting him with knees up the middle, really outclassing with some of the speed he was able to use. But in classic Gregory Rodrigues fashion, I don't know where he got the will to just continue in the second round. He had, it looked like the eye of Sauron had opened up between his eyes, and he somehow was able to dig down deep and go out there and get his own knockout. That's one of the most gruesome cuts you will ever see in MMA.
Gregory Rodrigues, Rafa Garcia, 2022.
Pretty much, but the big thing is, and I know Rodrigues is only 30 years old, you don't really look at him as an old fighter, but these fights start to add up. And like you said, he got knocked out on Contender Series, which not a lot of people do remember, but with that, and with the fact that he seems to get rocked and wobbled in every single one of his fights in the UFC up until this point, not saying Brad Tavares is a good fight for Gregory Rodrigues, but Brad Tavares isn't some thunderous puncher on the outside, right? If Brad Tavares is going to beat you, he's going to outclass you with his skills more so than his kind of wowing knockout power. And Gregory Rodrigues had a great chance to win that fight with his boxing. It's almost weird, but the fact that Brunno is more like Gregory might cost Rodrigues in this matchup, because I think Rodrigues is a lot like Brunno, just with a lot more of his skill set kind of filled in. He's less of the peak and valley guy, but the problem is their peaks and valleys are in the exact same things for the most part, and I could see Gregory Rodrigues getting into a bit of a firefight, feeling himself very early on, and eating some of those big shots, because the thing is, Gregory Rodrigues is a great chin. You know how we know that? The man gets hit clean all the time, and against Brunno, you do not want to eat his shots from the outside.
Well, the things that weird me out. So we look at that loss to Jordan Williams, who's a southpaw who landed a left cross, who's smaller than Gregory Rodrigues. Brunno Ferreira is 4 inches shorter, 3 inches less in reach, and throws a Superman punch from the southpaw stance that lands through the guard of a lot of his opponents. He throws overhands that land. It really is weird, and I know if you consider it on Contender Series, you look at the episode that Ferreira was on, it was week 9. Jeff Filio got a contract, would have been great if he was on this card. You also had, who was it, Alves that got a contract, Austin Lane, who's now going to fight Tafa, and then as well, Raul Rosas Jr., Ferreira was able to go out there, land against with a lot of stance switches, one of those Superman shots, and then he finished his opponent in that one, who was Aliu. So again, I look at this and I read a really interesting thing. MMA Junkie Dan Tom did a little bit of post-fight analysis on Ferreira's fight, and he said, listen, not that, you know, you're trying to set a ceiling for this guy, but for Ferreira next, he'd like to have seen him fight like Dennis Tululin, or Joe Pyfer. And now he's
That
like,
Joe Pyfer
wait,
fight would be wild.
you're way up fighting a guy that's like on the fringes of the rankings. And for Gregory Rodrigues in the 5-on-in in the UFC, beats Dusko Todorovic, beats Junyoung Park back and forth, and then he finished him. Loses to Armin Petrosian in a split decision that could have gone either way.
Wasn't a great fight, which is weird.
Finishes Julian Marquez, had him drop 4 times in that fight, and then finishes Chidi and Joe Kawani.
Is it too soon, though?
It seems like a step too soon for Brunno Ferreira.
No, I mean for Rodrigues coming back off the Chidi, just because he took a lot of damage, and that was the thing I wanted to talk about. Like, it's just shy of 4 months ago. We're about on the 4-month anniversary, if you will, coming up on fight night. Like, not that he got knocked out or anything like that, but that's a deep cut that takes a long time to heal. And if watching a lot of boxing has taught me anything, it's that scars are an MF or later on in your career. And just the way that Gregory Rodrigues fights, it's not like he's unhittable. It's just everything in me wants me to pick Gregory Rodrigues, but every time I think, hey, this is a good prediction to make, there's a huge red flag that has Brunno Ferreira's face on it.
Brunno Ferreira, 9 wins, 6 by knockout, 3 by submission, 7 first-round finishes, 2 of them in the second. He's never touched a third round. Matt, Gregory Rodrigues, pretty big favorite in the matchup. We have a look at the Tapology votes on this one. Surprised us there to you. Listen, Robocop is a fan favorite. I'm going to say over under 80% Rodrigues.
I think it'll be under, but I think it'll be the favorite.
It's over.
Wow.
557 total votes, 90% Rodrigues, 84% by knockout. For the 10% that have Ferreira, 78% by knockout. The fans are thinking a knockout. You think somebody's going to get a knockout?
Yeah, I think there probably is going to be a knockout in this fight. I really like watching both these guys fight. Like, the film study for this one was really fun because it's not a chore to go back and watch either one of these guys fights. I just keep on thinking, if you look at where both of their guys, where the ceiling of their skills are, it's in the boxing, in jiu-jitsu, even though we don't really see it, but you know that both guys do excel in that. I just think that Gregory Rodrigues has a little bit more of that in-cage experience that you really only get from fighting at the highest level for a long time. And again, I'm going to say the same thing about Brunno that I just said about Costa in the previous matchup. I think he could have a relatively high ceiling in the UFC. I think he could go on and do great things. I just think this matchup against Gregory Rodrigues is a difficult one. And I know they're both Brazilian, but to make your UFC debut against Gregory Rodrigues in Brazil, like, they're going to be excited to see Gregory Rodrigues. I think that's going to be a big pop from the crowd. That's a very overwhelming feeling to make in your UFC debut. So for those reasons, I'm going to pick Rodrigues, but I do think a lot of the positives from both guys do overlap, and that's why it's a dangerous fight.
Both guys the highest level of judo. Both guys very good at jiu-jitsu. Brunno Ferreira out of Evolução Thai with Bruno Silva, who's going to get you ready for a matchup like this, but also United Gym with his jiu-jitsu. Gregory Rodrigues out of Killcliff FC. To me, it's a tough one to try and predict. And I know the odds are way apart. Like 84% at Fight Night picks have Gregory Rodrigues to win. I'll take Rodrigues based on that in-cage experience, but guys, like that's me saying I don't have a ton of confidence in it. So both of us going with Robocop, Gregory Rodrigues to get the win. You can make a great case for Ferreira down in the comments section. Hopefully we laid out a pretty good game plan for both of these guys. A great fight in the middleweight division. Matt, Shogun Hua is going to retire.
He is.
Pride never die. A great fight against Ihor Pizzeria. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.